Hello, everyone. As you know, this is Lafayette Faust, and I want to take a moment to say a big thank you to all you Nevermore Hollow psychos who have been with me as I tell the strange and deadly stories of the poor townsfolk who live here. And also, as you know, since Brother Chris Madman Goins has arrived here in Nevermore Hollows, we've added a couple extra series for you to indulge in. And one of those series is True Tales from Nevermore Hollows, where we step outside the realm of fiction and interview real people who have had real paranormal experiences. And tonight, I am speaking with Jacob Waymire. Jacob is a co host of the Drunken Cryptids podcast, and he's got some stories he wants to share with us tonight. So I think you're in for a real treat. So, as usual, I invite you to sit back, turn on a light, and prepare yourself. So, Jacob, welcome to the Secret Bunker. And how you doing tonight, brother?
I'm doing good. Thank you for having me, though.
Oh man, excited to have you on. I met you through the Drunken Cryptids podcast with Matthew, and didn't even know you existed there for a while because you was running back behind the scenes. And then when I got to talking to you and getting to know you and realize, hey, you got some stories. Let's hear about them. So, if you would, why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Of course, live in Arkansas. Been here since '99. Love to hunt, love to hike. Uh, been an iron worker for eight years here now, so it's a lot of fun. Live out in the county, so that's the one thing I love about Arkansas. It's nice and beautiful, quiet sometimes, but
Yeah.
that that country life, so the dirt road stays active. So
Right. Yeah, I feel you. Chris and I, we've always lived in a rural town that is no longer rural, and the nice
No.
quiet parts of town that we used to enjoy are no longer as quiet as they used to be.
Oh,
So,
they've got
what did you do? Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Chris.
no, they've got factories built all over the place now. So it's
Yeah, and we've got
my
all
my
that
little rural
influx.
my little
say
rural house is about 50 yards from a huge factory now.
okay. Well,
You know, I was thinking about that earlier, Chris, because I remember, gosh, 25 years ago or something, whatever it was, you and Tammy first moved in there. Sharon and I came
Yeah.
and visited, and
Yeah.
it was rural. Now it's not.
Yeah. Nope. No. But we still got a lot of critters. I've got a neighbor in the back that's got a Great Pyrenees guard dog, and he there's some nights, man. He really, I don't know what he's after, but he's after something. They've got sheep and stuff back there, and man, he is a guard dog and a half. I'm pretty impressed by his abilities,
Okay.
but
Nice.
often wonder what he's barking at.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
I don't
So
blame him.
Jacob, what did
Do
you
what?
do before you ended up in where you are in Arkansas now?
Uh, Raised in Kansas for about 8 years until we moved here in '99. So, born in Kansas, raised in Arkansas, pretty much.
Oh,
Gotcha, gotcha. All right,
You know,
so let's get into it. So now that we know a little bit about Jacob, and I've been in both states. Both states are nice. Both are flatter than what Chris and I would be used to being Eastern Tennessee boys. All right, so Jacob, you were telling me that you had a couple of paranormal experiences over the years. Why don't you just kind of lead us into one of those and tell us a little bit about what occurred?
all right. So, our family moved here to Arkansas in '99 due to a church split. So, this is about the time I was 8. Yeah, a couple months after turning 8. So, moved here, got into this new church and all that. So, they hooked us up on I guess you can call it like a missionary house. So they keep the
Mm-hmm.
missionary and all that, but they ended selling it to us. And so we're there fixing it up. I, I don't know how long we stayed there, but yeah, just I mean one night. Um, so me and my brother bunked in the same room in bunk beds. I had the lower one, he had the top. So just laying in bed. God, like I was telling Matt, this it happened around like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. I mean, woke up and swear my mom was standing at the foot of the bunk bed,
Hmm.
like telling him looked like a '60s nightgown, '70s nightgown.
Yeah.
I mean, looked like my mom. And I called out to her, and it at first didn't click with me, like that's not mom, but it just called her again, and she just turned, looked at me, bent down at the foot of the bed, popped back up, turned, looked at the wall, turned again, and back through my closet door, which was shut. Like
Oh, okay.
like, like phased through the door.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
so thinking about that, I'm at 8 and 9 years old. All I did was throw the blankets over my head. I did not know how to explain it, how to process it. I was like, okay, this is not normal. Am I still asleep? No, I'm throwing the blankets. Like they
Uh huh.
can't see me. I'm not there. But
Yeah.
I mean, Matt
Blankets are
asked,
magic.
oh,
Right.
as a kid, blankets a freaking safe spot.
Yep.
Right.
But I mean, Matt asked me, he goes, why didn't you go run to mom and dad's room? I'm like, are you not go past through that door? Go past that
Right.
door? Like
Right.
I didn't know this thing was gonna reach out and grab me or what, but it's just I mean how she looked at me, it just had that face like that's not mom. And it's just
So let me ask you. So you're saying, it was it did resemble your mom though, correct?
yes,
Interesting. Almost like maybe it was trying to take her, you know, to take her countenance so that she could trick you, maybe?
possibility. I never did think about it that way.
Wow.
but but yeah, it was just it I mean like 8 years old, it scared me. Like
Oh
Oh
yeah, I can
yeah.
imagine.
like I mean like I never did tell my parents until I was like 25, 30s. Like
Wow.
I was why didn't
So
you
was
tell me?
that the only time that you saw this woman?
Yeah, the only time. Which
Interesting.
the only thing, only time.
Wow.
So, Chris, what do you make of that? I mean, typically when when you get a some sort of apparition like that, it's typically not a one-off visit. So there's clearly something she was trying to either she was trying to communicate or she was up to something and realized that the people in this house maybe were protected because you said you were living in a missionary home.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So I'm
And the fact that it tried to look like your mother,
Yeah.
that that just that gives me all kinds of willies. Um,
like something. It was strange, very strange to me. But I mean,
but
it scared me.
I like that when you said that it like when you called your mom's name, it almost like it knew that something was up because you said
Right.
it looked at you, turned the head, looked at you, bent down and looked at you, and then like, no, it's time to go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So maybe it was surprised that you saw it,
Ah,
that, that's a
you
good.
know.
interesting.
And
Yeah,
once you recognize that it wasn't your mom, then it figured that the jig was up and it's time to go.
That's
it just
almost getting into that whole uncanny valley thing, where,
Yeah,
something looks close enough to human and yet there's something off, and
yeah,
that we pick up on a spiritual, deep level and we go, that's not quite right. So,
yeah.
um, interesting. So I got to ask this. It's going to sound like a funny question, but it's not. So you said that she was dressed like in a '60s, '70s style nightgown. Is that typically how your mother dressed?
she's worn a nightgown like that just a few times, but not very often. Most of the time it's like baggy shirt and a baggy
Hmm.
short. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, She
Yeah,
did.
that's why I was asking because that is that was a very distinctive thing that you said, and I know that you're only what 33,
33.
33. So you're not old enough to have a mother who would have been wearing that kind of stuff back when you were 8 years old. I was, Chris was,
Yeah,
but
I
not
was.
you. Yeah,
Yeah.
so that makes me wonder if maybe whatever that apparition was is that it was obviously from that era of 60s and 70s,
Yeah,
but was
yeah.
trying to impersonate your mom for whatever reason. So let me ask you this: while it was looking at you, did you know? Obviously, you could feel that something wasn't right, but did you feel any type of negative energy?
I mean, looking that far back, I mean, I can't say yes or no. I
Right.
mean, I know it's just. I mean, honestly, now think about it, it probably didn't. I mean, probably didn't feel right, but back then I probably didn't pick up on that. But
Okay.
it,
Well, you didn't feel right, and that's when you pulled the covers up over your head. That's
I,
a little kid reaction to negative
well,
feeling.
I pulled the
Yes. Good point.
pulled the covers over my head when it faced the door. So that
Yeah,
I
Ah.
yeah.
Uh,
Probably have to
yeah.
clean out my bed too.
oh
Right. Right.
dude, I did that. I did not want to go to bed. I did not want to fall back asleep. I just like did not want to shake the covers off of me because I did not know if it was still there.
Uh huh.
Yeah.
So
So
I
how
mean,
long did you live in that house afterwards, Jacob?
mm, maybe a year.
Hmm.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, that's definitely a tricky one. I would be curious. I would love to talk to somebody who was deeper into that whole spiritualism thing that could maybe, tell us has that is that something that can happen, and what do you think as a professional was going on with this one particular incident?
Okay.
And you never saw anything else in that house like that?
Not like that, but I
Okay.
know within the same year. I don't know. It could be a couple weeks apart. It could be a couple months apart. I'm not 100% sure. I know I had to go back and listen to the episode I did with Matt.
Right, right.
No, I remember waking up about the exact same time, 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. And I mean, I mean, I don't know if you guys do it, but I'll wake up in the middle of the night and chug water.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I do.
And my nightstand that I had was on the other side of the room by a double pane window.
Hmm.
And by the nightlight, of course. And getting up, go to get the water, look out the window, and there was a street light. And for some reason, I don't know what it was, but saw a ghostly dog on a leash with a guy. Like both of them were ghostly.
So
Okay.
a ghost was out walking his dog.
Ghostly dog.
Wow.
So so now when you saw him, obviously if you're saying ghostly, you could see that he wasn't fully materialized.
You could see through them, but they had color to them, which was weird.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Like tell that he was wearing kind of like a bluish pants and I swear it was a turquoise colored shirt.
Well, I've
Huh.
heard of that before, of spirits, you know,
Yeah,
having color. It's not like on TV all the time where when you see a spirit and they're black and white in a color world, that's not always the case.
Right.
I know sometimes it is, but most of the paranormal experiences I've seen where it involves some sort of ghostly apparition, there was color, even if you could see through the
yeah.
apparition.
But
Did
Um,
yeah,
did did you ever
the,
hear
the
uh any stories about a man and his dog getting killed or anything in that general area? Or
no,
did somebody say something about an old man walking his dog all the time?
no, not that I know. Most of the time we just stay to ourselves.
Yeah.
So
I wonder if
but
that was a residual, like if
it
that's
probably
something that gentleman did every night, and
hmm
so now it's just the energy still there to keep doing it every night.
yeah,
yeah.
made him maybe it was something that he really enjoyed or something like that. I've heard
Yeah,
that kind of stuff happening.
Yeah.
But
Interesting. So now that's in, you're still in that same house. So you're still in that. Was it a neighborhood?
yes,
Okay. Obviously, it was going to be an older neighborhood, I imagine.
it's probably a little older neighborhood. I mean, God, we call it the projects.
Yeah.
But
Gotcha.
I mean, here's the kicker of it though. When it entered the light from the street light,
Uh
is when
huh.
it freaking
Mhm.
appeared. So when it exited the light, it vanished.
So it
Ah,
was only
yeah.
visible underneath the light.
Yes,
Dude.
Well,
that was
and
Dude.
that
this
kind of
thing.
makes sense too, because a lot of the paranormal investigators, they try to look on different spectrums. So I'm wondering if that particular lamp, that particular light, was emitting a certain spectrum of light that maybe some other street light. Because sometimes when they're starting to phase out or they're brand new, they kind of take on a
Yeah.
different quality.
But
Yeah,
Interesting.
wouldn't it be interesting if there was a row of streetlights that
Ah,
he would appear in the light, nothing, appear in the light, nothing. That would be
that would be
cool
trippy.
and freaky all at the same time.
That
right.
would be trippy.
So, with those two paranormal experiences, pretty close back together there, that clearly set your mind at a young age to be open to that. Because
Yeah,
Matthew and Chris and I have all talked before about do folks like us see things because we're open to it? When other people don't see things because maybe they're closed off to the possibilities. So I
Yeah.
say that to set the stage. And if now that we established at 8 you'd had these experiences, so now your young mind is formed to accept the possibility of something paranormal. So that sets the tone. So what else? Was there anything else that happened in that house or in that neighborhood while you were in there?
that was just it in that neighborhood.
Okay. So let's go forward a little bit then. So now you're this, you've got this ability to have an open mind,
Hmm.
or as Larry
Yeah.
Correa says, Chris, you and I are fans of
Yeah.
his books where he says
Yeah.
if they've got a flexible mind. So you've got your
Flexible
flexible
mind.
mind now, right?
Yeah.
So now you're going forward. So what do you remember next happening?
So early 20s, I had a friend of mine. Um, I guess I mean, of course, got that drinking age and all that. Go out, have a
Hmm.
few beers, and we come back to his place. So I mean, it's pushing midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning. So I mean, I've had enough. I don't need any more before I can't drive. But I mean, I
All right.
don't drink and drive. But I mean, please don't. Um, but it was just at that part. I told him I'm going home. I mean, I'm tired. I've had too much. I can't stay up. I mean, of course, it's Friday, but
Yeah.
it's just so. I mean, I go home the next day. I come up because he called me to come over because some things I guess happen. So when you go into somebody's house, I mean, you can typically feel warm, inviting.
Yeah.
That's what his house was the day before.
Mm-hmm.
I come
Hmm.
back, it feels like it was cold and unwelcoming.
Okay.
Oh wow.
So, and I'm like, dude, it feels cold in here. He goes, dude, it's summer out here. I'm like, dude, your house feels cold. I was like, dude, my freaking thermostat's not even on. I was like, dude, your house is cold.
Okay.
So I'm like,
Wow.
I look at the thermostat and I mean, it's freaking 75 in his house and it feels like it's 50.
Okay.
Hmm.
Oh, and he goes, dude, just some things have just been off the last few hours and all that. I'm like, okay, what's wrong? And he goes, things are moving around.
Oh.
Oh crap.
And I kind of got the click of that because I set my mug somewhere. Come back 30, 40 minutes later, the mug's on the other side of the table. And
Okay.
I'm
Ooh.
like, I know I stuck it on this side of the table.
And nobody
Yeah.
else was near that mug while you were gone.
No, it's just me and him in the house. And we go to
Okay.
the garage, do something, come back, it's on the other end.
Okay, I've had that happen to me. We talked
Yeah.
about that in Matthew's episode where he spoke with us. So yes, go ahead. So I've seen that kind of stuff happen. So go ahead.
I'm kind of dumbfounded. I'm like, okay, I probably just moved it, not thinking, misplaced it, set it on the other side. So I just overlook it, and I mean, it's just have eerie feelings of the house, like things is watching you. And so he goes up to his room to change. So he comes down and he's putting his shirt on, turns around, and it looks like, so. I mean, hate to say this, but it looked like he had rough sex. I mean, it looks
Okay.
Oh
like
wow,
on his back.
like scratches. Yeah.
Yeah. And I looked at him. I'm like, dude, did you have some girl over or your girlfriend over here or something? He goes, nope. It was just me. She's out of town. I'm like, okay, go look in the freaking mirror. He looked at me. He goes, holy crap. He goes, man, thought my back felt weird. I'm like,
Gee
yeah.
Okay,
whiz.
so I gotta say, it's only a guy, okay? Because if women
Yeah.
were having this conversation, they would have thought something totally. Only a guy would go, "The back is scratched, therefore
Yeah.
it's a
Did
rough
your
sex for
girlfriend come over last night?
him."
I'm,
Okay, sorry. So I just couldn't. That tickled me. So
but
because that is
it
such
was
a
just,
dude thing, right? It's just men and
Yeah.
women think differently.
it's how the scratches were. One side of
Yeah.
the back's this, the other side's this way. So
Okay.
it looked like the okay, it's doing this on the back, and it's just like it was weird.
Okay.
It wasn't straight down; it was diagonal. But it just he looked up and he goes, "Okay, that's weird." Okay, and then at this time, processing what's going on, I'm like, "Hey, it's getting close to Halloween. What the
Mhm.
crap did you do?" He
Right.
goes, "After you left, a couple buddies came over, and their girlfriend came over." I'm like, "Okay, who?" He tells me, and he goes, "Man, they brought this weird board." I'm like, "Okay."
Oh.
Oh, okay. I
Yeah.
see where
There
this
you
is
are.
going.
Have the alphabet and numbers on it? He goes, yeah. I'm like, you mess with a freaking Ouija board.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't do that, man. You don't do that.
No.
Nope.
After he told me that, I never walked back into that house, and I haven't talked to him for about 15 years.
Yeah,
I
because
wondered what
Chris
they
and
let
I,
in.
right?
Or,
Because I don't know Jacob, enough about your theological beliefs, but Chris and I both believe that you know the Bible tells us don't even mess around with that kind of stuff because you're going to
Yeah.
inadvertently invite something in. So
yeah,
I don't, and as much as I love the spooky, I don't let Ouija boards into the house. I don't
no,
because
No.
there's too many stories out there
yeah,
where people I know and people, you see on the internet that you can say, well, some of them are crackpots, but some of them appear to be genuine people. But too
Exactly.
many stories about, hey, I thought it was just a game. Next thing you know, crazy stuff's
some,
happening at home.
yeah,
Yeah.
door's been open, something's tethered to him.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
I haven't talked to him in about 10 years. I ain't done mention his name, and I will never go back to that house. I
So
mean,
Yeah.
while you were there that day, did obviously you got the movement of the objects, right?
yeah,
And you've got obviously the cold spots, which are classic,
yeah.
activity. Anything else happen that day while you were there?
Felt like you're being watched, and then you could
Yeah,
almost felt like you could keep seeing things pop around the corner or look at you and pop right
Ooh.
back of your eye.
yeah,
And it's
yeah,
Oh,
just
and
like,
so they're
okay,
peeping out.
and
yeah,
Yeah.
it just it was just eerie to me. I just didn't like it. After he, like I said, told me that, I left.
yeah,
Told him that.
yeah. I don't blame
Yeah.
you
See, I've
because
I've always I've always told my kids
mhm.
if you walk into some place and you get a cold feeling in your gut, time to go.
Yeah,
Yeah,
You don't hang around.
yeah. Trust your instinct.
Yeah.
And it's funny. I when I was a young man, I was an investigator, and it wasn't with a police force. It was a private kind of thing, and you know there were times that I would be interviewing people, and you could feel that cold, deep, dark energy coming off of them, and you're like, okay, you know, there's there's a truth to that. There's an energy that people
Yeah.
give, and
Yeah.
it's either going to be an energy of light or it's going to be an energy of dark. and darkness, and I've experienced both. Where we've all talked to people. You just go, man, that person, I just feel lifted up after just being in that person's presence for a
Yeah.
few minutes. And on the opposite end, you walk into a room, like you're saying, you just walk into a room and you just feel that energy coming off somebody, and you go, well, are you okay? What's wrong? But anyway, I'm getting sidetracked there. But yeah,
Right.
I think like Chris is getting at, you got to trust your gut. If you walk
Yeah,
into some place and it doesn't feel right, move on.
Yeah.
yeah.
All right,
So
so very good. All right, so now, just out of curiosity, did even though you didn't talk to this gentleman for since that day, have you heard anything negative that might have happened to him or anything like that?
I cut all contact.
Gotcha.
Just it just it's just to me. It's just I don't even mess with that. I mean, demonic
Yeah,
phase. I
Yep.
don't like my younger brother would love watching demonic movies like Annabelle, The Conjuring, and stuff like that. I don't like watching stuff because I know that stuff is true and it's
hmm
Yeah.
actually true events. And it's just like I don't like that stuff. I don't need that door opening, and for sure, I don't need that tethered to me. So
that's
I
right,
just
and
Exactly.
that's good that you said that tethered to you, because um, you can be, and I know, I don't know about a lot of our listeners what their theology is, but from a Christian point of view, if you are truly a Christian, you can't be possessed, but you can be plagued.
Yeah.
You can be
Yeah. You
yeah,
can be
plagued.
a
You
friend.
can still
Yeah.
have something that's tethered to you, trying to, manipulate you and cause you great harm. So, it's obviously it's a smart move what you did. So, all right.
yeah.
So Chris, you got any questions or comments about all that at that point?
No, I would have done the same thing. I'd said, I'm out. See ya.
Peace
Yeah,
out. Right. Peace out,
Yeah.
bro. All right.
it was.
So,
I mean, after that, I couldn't stick around.
Yeah.
right.
But
All right. So now that was, again, refresh my memory. You were about how old?
uh, 21, 22.
Okay. All right. So now is there other experiences you've had since?
Should be two other more that I had. One of them
Okay.
I didn't even go on Matt's show, so this would be the first one to explain it. So, um,
It's live on Nevermore Hollows.
I,
Let's hear it.
Ta-da.
so one of my friends claimed to his trailer be haunted. So I mean, never felt any presence or anything with it. He always says it's haunted. Till one night I found out.
Yeah.
So I stayed the night. Of course, I mean this is out close to Mayflower area here in Arkansas. So stay at his trailer. Wake up in the middle of the night, you can swear hear footsteps running down the hallway, back
Oh,
and forth.
Mhm.
wow.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
I kind of thought it was my buddy until the next morning. He goes, "Did you hear that? Was that you running up and down the hallway?" I'm like, "No."
Why would I be doing that, right?
Right.
Oh, it was the last time I stayed the night there. But
Yes, sir.
luckily they moved out not too long after that. But yeah, he asked me. He goes, "Yeah, my trailer's haunted. My trailer's haunted." I'm like, "Dude, if it's haunted, I would have this feeling of not welcoming. I could sense it, type deal. But it just never felt that way until one night you like kind of half awake, half not, half asleep, and you
Mhm.
hear running down the hallway. It's like, that's weird."
Right. Well, you said something there that I find interesting, Jacob. We've told the story about the haunted house I was in when I was about 8 years old or so,
Mhm.
and one of the things that we saw, we knew that was manifesting there was footsteps, heavy, heavy footsteps. I remember them as just big, thick, heavy footsteps. My sister recently told her version on another show, um, where she thought it sounded like maybe a horse clomping. That's how heavy it was, but she remembered
Wow.
it being, like a horse's steps, where I just remember it being, maybe like a human step. But the thing I want to get across here is there were all kinds of weird things happening in that house to us. But
Yeah.
not once did I feel a malevolent presence, even though there was weirdness going on. We would feel the cold spots. We would see, things would get moved around. Um, we would hear the footsteps, covers being pulled off. My brother started, sleepwalking in the middle of the night and speaking he would say weird words in the middle of the night. He was younger than me, but not once did we have that classic feeling of malevolence.
Okay, yeah, I never did have that at that house. It was just
Interesting.
Well, it makes me wonder if it's not the house but the land.
Mm.
That especially with a trailer, if
yeah,
it's
that
if it's
Mm.
the land, then something's running, and it's just that trailer's in the way, so it's just going to keep going.
that's a good thought. Yeah, I never thought of it that way.
Interesting,
Yeah,
Chris. So that's why it could have just happened, once or twice and maybe not ever happened again.
right.
Yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
because it happened a couple times, but only one time I've heard it because he kept coming up to me asking me if I was walking down the hallway until like the last night, and I heard it. Never.
Well,
So
that last Airbnb that Alan and I stayed in, I heard something
Right.
banging in the night, and he did too. And then the next morning, I'm like, "Man, what y'all doing?" He goes, "We thought that was you."
Right.
And I'm like,
Yes.
"Awesome."
It was an older house, Jacob. I don't know how old it would have been. It probably maybe early, 20s or 30s from, 1920s, 30s, maybe a
I'd
little.
say so. Yeah.
Yeah. But
But
there was a closet in one of the bedrooms that Chris went into. He comes out and he goes, "Well, there's a murder closet in there."
dude, the house they had redone almost everything, but when you walk in that closet, that was wallpaper from the 1940s, and just
oh,
like, yeah. And I went, "No," click, and I'm not. I put my luggage in front of the doors. Nope, nope, nope. That's not happening.
And right, because I thought the same thing too. I didn't call it the murder closet. You had that little nugget. When I looked at it when I first walked in there, I was like, God, this is a freaky looking closet. It's a closet, but it didn't feel like a closet. And then you said, "I'll take this room." I was like, "Have at it, brother Chris." And then Jacob, literally that next morning, we were like, "What was all that noise last night?" And we thought it was Chris, and Chris thought it was me and my son. Wasn't either of us.
Yeah.
huh.
So,
The haunted house on Airbnb.
Yep.
well, I'm a big believer in thresholds. If
Thresholds,
a
yeah.
house if a house is a home,
Hmm.
um, the energy that is built up inside that house from a family living there, from humans living there, makes it
Yes.
a home. So there's thresholds there, which traditionally makes it harder for spirits to be able to enter because
Okay.
there's a barrier. Um,
Mm.
but if it's like an Airbnb where there's not really people living there, they're all kind of transient, it would be easier for something to kind of go, "Hey, I think I'm hanging out here." I
Plus,
got
Chris, now that you say that, and then I want you to finish what you're saying, but yeah, I just had a thought. With it being an Airbnb, some of the people who were living in that Airbnb might have been some
uh-huh,
pretty nasty people. So go
yeah.
ahead.
Now, but years ago, I got to witness these guys using dowsing rods, uh, and they found this was in Cades Cove in Smoky Mountains, and they found the foundation of an old house that was, I mean, you couldn't see it; it was completely covered up. But when he would walk towards the foundation, the dowsing rods would close, and he goes,
Mm-hmm.
"Yeah, this is the threshold of and boy, when some lady asked if it was magic, man, he got ticked." And he pretty much laid down. He said, "Look, I'm a Christian, but this is just energies that." And he goes, "And these aren't fancy things. These are metal pieces of metal I got from Walmart." You know,
Mm-hmm.
but he it was amazing because he was holding them very loosely. And
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard of people being able to do that and finding water. I witnessed this personally, and it got me started researching on that. And yeah, I my house. I live in my grandparents' house. They bought it in 19. Well, it was built in 32, and I think they bought it like it was 2 years old when they bought it. And so my family has been living here for several generations. So I believe our threshold is pretty strong just from people living here. But in a trailer or
Mhm.
an Airbnb or something like that, I think it would be weaker. So something could kind of travel through.
Yeah, I can
You
see
know
how
what?
you're.
Yeah, you know what fascinates me, Chris, about what you just said. I when I was a kid, I would watch people. I mean, I was little. I can almost barely remember it using
Yeah,
dowsing rod. And I've got a story I can tell here in a few minutes about recently, just a few months ago. But but what you said there that fascinates me is that he could tell it was the threshold.
yeah,
Where he says, so I see the threshold as, walking through a doorway.
Yeah.
right,
I know you may be expanding on that idea that the threshold is just, the footprint of the house itself. But that lingering energy, that it was clearly strong enough that it made those rods move in such a way that he knew there's a tug on it here, that he had was familiar enough with to go, it's the foundation of a home.
Hmm.
well, I mean, he even found the corners of the foundation. He would walk down through there, and like if it was the right hand corner, only the right hand rod would go sideways. So
Hmm.
they found the corners. He also said that they found um, graves in Cade's Cove, um, by using dowsing rods. Graves that
Hmm.
were unmarked. And so that was again, me being me, that's when my ears perked up, and I'm like, really?
Yeah.
And so it was. These two guys were pretty interesting. They were in their, I think they're in their 70s. So
Yeah.
they were pretty down to earth, hardcore guys, and it was interesting to watch.
Well, that's interesting. So, before we get into Jacob's, final, he said he had one more story. Let's since we're on the idea of dowsing rods. So, Cleveland used to be really rural, and it's less
Oh yeah,
so now, right? Where
Hmm.
where we live. And I can remember as a kid, my granddad had a couple of acres, a little shack on this couple of acres, and he wanted to have a well. And the first thing they did is they brought out somebody with a dowsing rod to find where that well would be drilled. And that's
yeah,
one of the vague memories that I can remember as a kid. But now we move forward to earlier this year, okay? And I haven't dealt with dowsing rods. I haven't seen dowsing rods since I was a child, okay?
right,
So, Chris, as we were talking before, I never like to be inside the house. I'm always outside.
Yeah.
So I live in a cul-de-sac of townhomes. Okay. I don't
right.
have that. I'm not as fortunate now to live on the outskirts of town like I'd like to. I'm living kind of in the town. But so I'm in this row of townhomes, and I'm sitting out front. Okay. So I'm just sitting in the front in the shade, and I'm writing because I'm writing an episode of
Right.
Nevermore Hollows. And up comes these two trucks, and they've got some kind of logo on them that I've never seen before. It's not, it's not like Cleveland City or Bradley
Uh-huh.
County, Chris. It's not any of those. It's almost like somebody that's been hired to do surveys or whatnot. This woman
Right.
gets out. She's got her hard hat on. She's got her little vest on so that she doesn't get run over, and she's got dowsing rods in her hand.
Really?
Okay. And she's walking up the street, and she's letting the dowsing rods move her, and she comes up close, and I was watching her. I wanted so bad to talk to her, but you could tell she was so in the moment. And I just
Yeah.
started, I just immediately I had an idea for a Nevermore Hollow story. So I'm just taking
Oh
notes
yeah.
as I'm watching this chick, right? But she walked all around, but she stayed mostly on my side of the street, and she ended up right next door to me in front of the neighbor's house, and she just stood there for a few minutes, and you could see the rods were moving back and forth. And then
Hmm.
she puts the rods under her arm, and then she pulls out this little I don't know, like a PDA kind of thing, almost
Yeah.
like a cell phone. She started punching in some kind of data. She pulls it out and she verifies again, punches some more data in. The other guy was sitting. One guy never got out of the other truck. She walks
Right.
by and says something to him, and then she jumps in the truck and they leave. And I'm thinking, wow, man, that what were they looking for, you know? And almost it almost felt like a secret thing that was happening, right?
Huh.
So the next day I look out and there they are again. And then she's back in that same location and she's got the dowsing rods and now he's out there looking and making notes while she's talking to him. And
Yeah.
then they left and I've never seen them since. So kind of
That,
makes you wonder what the heck they were up to.
huh. That is weird.
Wow.
Yeah. All right, so
Hey,
so so that was a nice little rabbit trail we went down. So
right. Right.
all right,
Yep.
so Jacob, been a great
Yeah.
conversation so far. I'm tickled that you've been on with us. So now let's move into this other story you've got for us.
All right. So this happened. Mm, God, I can't pinpoint when it happened. 10, 11, 12.
Uh-huh.
Uh, 10, 11, 2012.
Okay.
Of course, Halloween night, and one of my buddies get. So we okay, so have a few beers. So he got the idea to stop at this Reed's Bridge battleground here that we have here in Jacksonville, a Civil War, a little skirmish fight, little battlefield. So we would go there, and so I mean, four of us in a truck, and two of us only go down there. The other two stayed in the truck, or actually, my bad, three of us. The other one stayed in the truck because he was chicken. So,
Right. Or smart, depending
yeah,
on how you look at it.
yeah. So we leave the truck. So this whole place, I mean, so where we walk down to into the bleachers, roughly about 150 to 200 yards.
Yeah.
Um, so we walk down there. So so it's pushing midnight. It's for some reason we get there, we stop walking down. It's all of a sudden thick, dense fog happens.
Oh.
Okay.
We
Okay.
get to the and you couldn't hear the road.
Huh.
300, like it's the road's like 250 to 300 yards away. You couldn't
Yeah.
hear the car.
That's some dense fog right there. All right.
Yeah.
Like cut it with a knife. So we sat there, and my buddy's like, how long you want to sit here? I was like, I don't know. I mean, it can be 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 40 minutes. But I think we sat there about 30 minutes, just trying to see what we can hear, or just see if we can find something spooky pop up.
Right.
But I don't know if he heard it, but I think he did because the look that he gave me
Mm-hmm.
was let's get the heck out of here because we
Yeah.
heard marching, like a
Huh.
group of men, and then you could very like I heard a faint cannon fire, like the old black
Yeah.
powder can,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and a couple muskets. It just for some reason it that's what it sounded like to me, and the marching got us really bad because we heard those and we're like that's kind of weird, and all of a sudden you start hearing the marching.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm already, but it's just we're sitting on this bleachers and we're just scaring in the middle of fog and nowhere, and all of a sudden you hear the marching step rhythm, and we
Okay.
both each other like, okay, that's not normal.
Right.
So
Right.
Uh-huh.
yeah, so I heard the cannon fodder and the musket fire. I mean, it was just like very faint. You could tell, but it was just, I mean, but yeah, the marching's what got us. So we looked at each other and we're like, okay, do we need to stay a little bit longer, see if something happens more? And about that time you heard those marchings, we like, nope, let's book it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I mean, it was like, I mean, we ran back to that dense fog and it was thick. So we didn't hear anything coming through the fog up to the truck. But when we got out to get uh, got to the truck, it's like
Yeah.
we stepped out of a whole different into like clear.
Yeah.
Oh
No,
wow.
I can understand that. Yeah, I can understand. I've had similar situation, not with the fog, but where you're like, it's almost like you cross a line and
Yeah,
suddenly you're, whatever that weirdness that was going on is just that it can't go any farther. Yeah.
Yeah.
but yeah,
So
Well,
it was
go ahead.
weird for.
no.
Uh,
That's a common um, story, especially for battlegrounds. We've got one close to us called Chickamauga,
Yep.
I've
and
heard.
it was a horrible battle.
Yeah.
But I have experienced things there. I have heard um, something about a fog. That these people went in there at night, and the fog was in the trees, and then the fog moved down and surrounded their car. And when the fog surrounded their car, that's when they started hearing cannons and started hearing rifle fire and started hearing guys yelling.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
But you know, and I've read all kinds of stuff about Gettysburg and people seeing and
Right.
hearing all
Yes.
kinds of things.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's a common thing. But I love what you said is when you got through the fog, it's like you stepped out of the bubble of whatever it was, and
yeah.
that's pretty cool, man.
I mean, it was kind of weird because I mean, like when I say step out of the fog, it's everything's foggy. It's just except for
Yeah,
that little area. It's just like its own little bubble of more dense fog than everybody else.
yeah,
But
Yeah.
like you
yeah,
could feel a pressure change.
yeah,
Mhm.
and it was just,
Yeah,
I mean, like I mean that's about as all the paranormal I got. But I mean, I just for that there where we did go back and did an episode there, but it just I mean felt a couple cold spots, which
yeah.
was kind of weird.
Mhm.
But I mean, I don't think anybody died at that battlefield. I don't know. I need to read
Uh,
into.
I think because I think Matthew and his guest on the latest episode they were talking about that, and they said that there was a couple of casualties, but nothing
Made
major. Not like
thing
Yeah.
like most of the battles where it was hundreds.
force on force. I think this was just a skirmish,
Yeah.
so 100
Yeah.
percent sure.
So a
But
good friend of mine, I was at his house. This has been a year ago, and they're kind of no nonsense. They're from New York, and they've kind of got that big New York attitude, and whatever you try to say, oh, you're an idiot, but in a good natured way. They're good folks, and the wife especially is no nonsense,
Uh,
and we're sitting there, and we're they'd invited me and my wife over, and we're sitting there, and we're eating. They've made some food for us, and we're sitting on their deck, and I bring up the concept of paranormal, right? Because that's what I
yeah,
like, and I'm just kind of feeling them
right.
out. And the wife, her name is Andy, she jumps up and she goes, "Oh my gosh, hang on, I'll be right back." And she runs into the house. Well, her husband's name is Andrew. So Andrew and
Yeah.
Andrew. So Andrew says, "You're going to like this if you're a paranormal guy." She comes back out and she's got these photographs, right? She's
Mhm.
got four
Uh-huh.
photographs. And it's from when they were in Chickamauga Battlefield, when they first moved 10 years ago, when they moved here. She had an old
Yeah.
camera with film
Yeah.
that she wanted to use up. So they go out there to see if they could find anything spooky. She says, "We felt, we felt that it was, maybe a cold spot." She goes, and it felt a little weird, but we weren't scared because we really didn't believe in that stuff. But when she had developed the pictures, four of those pictures had orbs all in them, just all
Yeah.
floating around. And in one picture in particular, it was literally, you know, congested around a cannon that was sitting there on the field
Yeah.
that she had taken a picture of.
Like the
Well, we
crew
went.
for
Yeah, we went to Chickamauga. Me and a buddy of mine to go ghost hunting, and he there's a tower there that is closed off to the public. It's gated off, but you can look into the tower. It's like 3 or 4 stories, and
Okay.
he just grabbed his digital camera and just stuck it in the door and snapped a couple pictures. And when he pulled, when we went over it later on, there was a skull
Ah.
hanging in midair, you know. And he sent it to me. He goes, "That wasn't there." I'm like, "No, that wasn't there."
Oh no.
But we also got a figure um, down on one of the battlefields in between where a gate was,
Yeah.
and this was on video. That we were this video, and in one frame nobody was there, and in the next frame there was somebody standing right in the middle, but that you could see through them.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And the next frame they were gone. But yeah, it's Chickamauga is a an interesting battlefield, and if you really want to get into it, look up. There's supposed to be an entity that lives there named Green Eyes,
Green
and
eye.
Green Eyes. He has he it whatever. See, the Native Americans that were around here, they didn't, as nice as all those fields were and that land was, they didn't mess
Yeah.
with it. They said something lived there.
Huh.
Um, and there are many stories of park rangers seeing this thing at night. One of the creepiest ones, they were doing reenactments,
Yeah.
and one of the park rangers was going from camp to camp, driving a pickup truck, going camp to camp, checking on everybody before he went home. And he was driving real slow down one of the roads, and there was a guy walking towards him in a Civil War uniform. He didn't say which side, but when he got where he was going to pass him, and the guy was at the driver's side window, the guy had
Yeah.
long, stringy hair, and when he turned around, his eyes were glowing green. And he said
Oh
it was
yeah.
at that point he said, "I decided I'm going home early." And
Yeah.
yeah,
Back.
but so many stories I've heard, so many stories of people seeing and hearing. One of them was a family that lives around there would hear like cavalry horses galloping by their house
I've
at like
heard that
2 or 3 in the
story. Yeah,
morning.
I've heard that
Yeah.
one. Yeah. Yeah.
But my favorite one, there was a guy. Uh, this was in the '70s. He said he was visiting a friend that lived there, and about 2 in the morning, he'd walked outside to have a cigarette, and he looked up into the woods, and there was a blue light,
Mm-hmm.
and it started coming towards him. And so he was kind of watching it, and as it got towards him, it got bigger, and he said it was two Confederate, I believe it was Confederate soldiers who were outlined in blue light, and they were carrying a third, and
Oh.
Yeah.
they said, "Pardon me, sir, could you tell us where the hospital is?" And he said, is there a white light? Do you see a white light?" And he said, "Yes, sir." He goes, "The hospital's there, boys. Take him there."
Right. Good
And
Yeah.
advice. Go there. Go towards the
they
light.
thanked him, and they turned around and went, and he never saw him again. He said, but he never went to visit that friend anymore either. So
Nope.
Right. Wow.
But,
That
yeah, man.
yeah.
so growing up around Chattanooga, Chris, you and I, we're just right up the road. I've talked to many people over the years. I especially loved when I was a kid and a teenager, talking to people who would say, "Look, I was there,
Yep.
and something happened."
Yep.
So some of them you can always weed out some for just wanting to tell a sensational story or being a crackpot, but you and I both know people who are believable. It's people we know, people we
Oh
trust that
yeah,
have told
man.
us stories.
Well,
So cool.
a buddy of mine here in Cleveland, in the outskirts of Bradley County, his house that he grew up in was built before the Civil War. And when we were at Chickamauga as grade school kids on a a field trip, they were showing us Civil War bullets, and he
Mm-hmm.
goes, "Well, heck, we dig those out of the front, out of the wood in the front of the house all the time, and they dig Civil War
Wow.
bullets." And I'm like, "Do what?" And he goes, "Oh yeah," and he told a story about a blood stain on the second floor that'll never go away. His mom has scrubbed it, and they've redone the floors and everything, and it keeps coming back.
I've heard
So
that story. I know where you're talking. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, you know, so
Bloodstain that will never disappear. That's
yeah,
crazy.
That
yeah, his
that's
mama
been a
was,
story that yeah, that's been a story that's floated around this area for a long time, Jacob. It
uh-huh,
won't die.
yeah,
And you have to look at it sometimes you go, where there's smoke there's fire. If that story never
right.
never goes away, there's something to it.
Yeah. But yeah,
All right. All
but
right,
yeah,
well good. Well look, I think, this has been a great conversation. I hope that you
Oh
had
yeah,
fun,
man.
Jacob.
I did.
Great stories, Jacob, man. We really appreciate it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know. Thinking back at certain things, I mean, I think I got into paranormal when I was a kid. Between that encounter and freaking my aunt freaking telling me stories of a freaking a uh what is it a orphanage there in Oklahoma.
Mhm.
Uh-huh.
She used to tell me stories that they used to burn. I don't know the whole detail on it, but she said they burnt a couple kids to get money out of them and the
Holy
shoes.
crap.
Yeah, like the bodies. And
Wow.
she said she came by one night and saw the swing set moving, just swinging.
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh yeah, and she
I,
took me by, showed me the place. I'm like, yeah, no,
there's supposed to be one in Alabama
yeah.
that does that, and I've watched video of the swing set just start moving all by itself. Nope,
See
I'm
that?
out.
Yeah, that was in Guthrie, Oklahoma. That's where my mom and aunt was raised.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, they've had some little encounters too. I've been trying to get
Oh
them on.
man.
So yeah, I think one of my aunt and my mom claim. Man, my mom says 50% that she thinks she saw Bigfoot.
Well, all right. So
So
look, but I can't let you go without expanding on that a little bit. Come on now.
uh,
Come on now.
according to the story that I've been told from my mom, that
Okay.
my grandpa used to have land, and my mom was a sibling, I believe, 10 or 12 kids.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think 3 or 4 of them lived within half a mile to a quarter of a mile apart, so they would walk from grandpa's dad's house to sibling house or whatever.
Right.
So I mean, what she told me is that when she was walking, she felt like she was kind of being watched, and she looked over, and she sees this hairy-looking creature.
Uh-huh.
That's all she could describe, and it disappeared. And she kept on walking like I didn't see anything.
Yep.
So that, and then the other one, my aunt claims to have seen Bigfoot peeking into her house.
Well,
Okay. That's very
that's a common
creature
story
of
too.
Boggy Creek. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, Uh, let me see the picture. I'm trying to picture the trailer. It was a single wide trailer, kind of like mine, a little bit longer, a little bit bigger.
Yep.
Um, the double. Oh no, is it a double? Yes, I think it was a double blind little window, but it was about 6, 7 feet off the ground,
Yep.
if I'm not mistaken. And the curtains were open, probably 8 inches, is how she's describing it. And they're in there talking, and all of a sudden, one of them says, "What is that?" And I'm gonna put the phone down real quick. So it looked how they describe it. It looked like it was doing this in the window.
Oh no, 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 no. That ain't gonna happen. Nope. Yo, so
No.
yeah, that's like very
Shots
Legend of
fired.
Boggy Creek. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's when you
and
pull out the shotgun and just, I
Yeah.
love you, Bigfoot, but you can't be peeking in my house, brother.
But see,
because I
but
mean,
this makes
because
me think.
that's that's how I got started with the Bigfoot. I mean, I've
Oh yeah.
been kind of. I mean, I know me and Matt have different ideals of what it is. I think it of a physical extinct kind of ape called the Gigantopithecus blackie.
Yep.
Mhm.
If you ever, I kind of think it's that. Um, but I do agree with what Matt believes. How the northwest and the southwest, southeastern, are different.
Oh
Towards
yeah, yeah, yeah. In the South, they're about 6 feet tall and they're red. But the
yeah,
farther north you get, the big that's when you get like
they're dark.
yeah,
But
and they're 12 feet.
yeah, he said it was kind of peering into the window, kind of like what a guy does, looking, trying to
Yeah,
see what's. And they just catch it real quick, and about the time they noticed, it took off.
Yeah.
So my aunt has told family that there's something out there that's messing around. She thought it was like an ex-boyfriend
yeah,
running around, like there's stuff being moved over here and all that. So I mean, but at the same time, I mean, I've heard those stories. So I mean, to the point of growing up and trying to be a deer hunter, and everybody tells me, "What do you think about when you go into the woods?" Is turning a tree and running into an 8 foot.
yeah.
Right.
But
You
see,
don't want to see more in the conversation.
this
But
makes me
yeah,
think, do Bigfoot tell the same story to their friends? Dude, I was walking in the woods
it,
and I seen one of them things and they're about 6 feet tall and I don't know what they are, but they got clothes on. You
they got
know.
clothes.
Right.
They can grow hair on their face.
Yeah.
Uh, but it
And they
just
got
that
these
would.
weird sticks that make noise.
Yeah. That's pretty
But yeah,
funny.
And then
I mean,
all his Bigfoot friends laugh at him and make fun of him, you know.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
No, you
Why don't you take
didn't.
a
No, you
yeah. Once you get a real clear picture of it, it's just like
I'm trying to do that too.
didn't. I heard this story years ago, but this guy, he was very pleased that when he got married, before he got married, his buddies took him out on a true wildlife camping trip. They were on horseback, went out in the middle of flipping nowhere, and this guy's a trained chef. So they brought
Yeah.
all these pack horses in with all this food, and man, they had a weekend. This guy was just cooking up a storm. They were cooking and drinking and just being buddies. And then at one point, they all went, "What the hell is that?" And they looked over, and across the field, Bigfoot was running across the field. And this guy almost killed himself getting a picture, but he got a picture. And it's a black and white, blurry picture of Bigfoot. And buddy, it was on his wall, and he was thrilled to death. On his
nice.
20 on his 25th wedding anniversary, his groomsman that took him out told him the truth that they had hired some kid from a
Uh,
summer camp to run across the field in an
Oh,
ape costume. He goes, and this picture that I've said I've got a clear picture of Bigfoot is some 6 foot. He said the kid was like 6'4" in a monkey suit. So
oh,
that is hysterical.
dude, I would
But
be cussing my best man out for that.
so Chris,
so
back in the '90s, in a former life, I was a stand-up comedian, and we used to talk
yes, sir.
about, the fastest way to a punch is, the joke, just get to the funny part. Just get to the funny part as fast
Right.
as you can. These dudes played a 25-year long
Yeah.
joke to get to a
25-year
punchline.
long joke.
That's
And
a
I
good.
mean, but see, those are your true friends.
Yes.
Yes.
If you're a guy, those are your true friends. They will wait and wait until it's the perfect moment, you know.
Yeah. Just hey, buddy, fake picture.
Right. That is brilliant. All right. Well, I think that's a good one to stop on. This. It's a good light note.
Yes, sir.
And just so you know, I- Chris, I see that you would do that. You would do that to me. You're that
Oh
kind of
yeah,
guy.
oh yeah. But see, here's my problem. I'm the one that's going to dress up in a Bigfoot costume, and I'm the one that's going to get shot because
Right.
where we live, somebody's going to shoot Bigfoot.
Uh,
You know,
yeah.
Yeah.
Right. All right.
and
Well,
my
this has
the
been a
last
great.
moments of my life. The last moments of my life will be a reenactment of a Scooby Doo thing where let's see who he really is. You
Right.
know,
Yeah.
It's Chris Goins.
no, no.
All right, gentlemen, this has been a great one. Jacob, we are thankful that you were on here sharing some experiences with us. And for those of you who are listening, I encourage you to listen to the Drunken Cryptids podcast,
Yes, yes.
especially the most recent one that I listened to today, where they were talking to an investigator, a true detective who given his experiences on what he thinks is going on in these situations. It was very insightful, very well done. I love that episode. Go check them out, the Drunken Cryptids podcast. And this is Lafayette Faust, Chris Madman Goins, and Jacob Waymire. Thank you for listening, and we will see you on the next True Tales from Nevermore Hollows.